inherential peace, it is urgent to comprehend profoundly the techniques of meditation. Today, we will talk about the illuminating void. Beginning this subject, I feel the obligation to explain directly what I have verified by myself about the illuminating void. Those who are listening are already informed about the marvelous law of reincarnation, because it is on that law that I base the following story. When the second sub-race of our current great Aryan race flourished in ancient China, I was reincarnated there. My name was Chao Li, and I was obviously a member of the Chao dynasty. In that existence, I became an active member of the Order of the Yellow Dragon. It is clear that in that order, I could learn the science of meditation perfectly. Even now, that marvelous instrument called the Aya Akaparus, which had 49 notes, comes to my memory. We know what the sacred law of Heptaparaparshinak is, that is to say, the law of 7. Undoubtedly, the notes of the musical scale are 7. If we multiply 7 by 7, we will get 49 notes in 7 octaves. The brothers held their meetings in the meditation room. We used to sit in the Oriental style with crossed legs, placing the palms of our hands the right over the left. We sat in a circle in the center of the room, closed our eyes, and immediately put profound attention on the music that a brother played for the cosmos and for us. When the artist made the first note vibrate, which was C, all of us were concentrated. When he made the next note vibrate, D, the concentration was more profound. We were fighting with the different subjective elements that we had within ourselves, and we used to recriminate and make them understand the necessity to be in absolute silence. It is good to remind my dear brothers that those undesirable elements are the I, the ego, the myself. They are like perverse entities that personify our errors. When the note E was vibrating, we were penetrating into the third zone of the subconsciousness to confront the multiplicity of those diverse psychic aggregates that live in disorder within ourselves and that impede the quietude and silence of the mind. We used to recriminate and understand them. When we achieved that, then we penetrated even more profoundly into the note F. It is obvious that new fights appeared with that note, because to gag all those demons of desire is not very easy. To obligate them to keep silence is not simple, but with patience we achieved it. In this form, we used to continue with each one of the notes of the musical scale. We made the same effort in a higher octave, so little by little we used to confront the different infrahuman elements that we carry within ourselves. Finally, we were successful in gagging them in the 49 levels of the subconsciousness. Then the mind stayed quiet, in the most profound silence. That was the instant in which the essence, the soul, the most pure, escaped to experience the real. In that form, we penetrated into the illuminating void. In that way, the illuminating void made irruption in us, and living in the illuminating void, we could know the laws of nature in themselves, as they are, and not as they apparently are. In this three-dimensional world of Euclid, only the causes and mechanical effects are known, not the natural laws in themselves. In the illuminating void, they appear in front of us as they really are. We could perceive in that state, with the essence, with the superlative senses of the being, the things in themselves as they really are. In the world of physical phenomena, we only perceive the things as they apparently are, angles, surfaces, but never a body in integral form, and the little we perceive is brief. Nobody could perceive what quantity of atoms a chair has, etc., but in the illuminating void, we perceive the things in themselves as a whole. When we were submerged in the grand illuminating void, we were able to listen to the voice of the Secret Father. Undoubtedly, we were in the state that could be called bliss or ecstasy. The personality stayed in a passive state, seated in the meditation room. The emotional and motor centers were integrated with the intellectual center, creating a soul and receptive whole. In that form, the waves of the experiences that we were living in the illuminating void, which were circulating through the silver cord, were received by the three centers: the emotional, intellectual, and motor. When the samadhi was concluded, we returned to our body, keeping the memory of all we had seen and listened to. However, I have to tell you that the first thing we have to abandon in order to remain submerged for a long time in the illuminating void is fear. The eye of fear has to be comprehended. We already know that its disintegration is made possible when we supplicate to the Divine Mother Kundalini vehemently. She will eliminate that eye. One day, it doesn't matter when, being in the illuminating void, beyond the personality, the I, the individuality, submerged in what we could call the no, I felt that I was everything that has been and will be. I experienced the unity of life free in its movement. Then I was the flower, the crystalline river that flows in its bed of rocks, singing in its language delicious things. I was the bird that goes to the inscrutable depths, the fish that delightfully swims among the waters, the moon, the worlds. I was all what is, has been, and will be. Because of myself, the feelings of the I felt fear. I felt that I was being annihilated, that I was ceasing to exist as an individual, that I was everything except an individual, that the myself had the tendency to die forever. Obviously, I felt an unspeakable fear and came back to my body. New efforts allowed me to get the eruption of the illuminating void, and again I felt confounded with everything. I had ceased to exist as a person, as an individual, as an I. This state of consciousness was becoming more and more profound, so any possibility to exist was finishing. The individual existence had the definitive tendency to disappear forever. I could not resist any more, and I came back to my body. I could not resist a third attempt, and I returned to the form. Since then, I know that in order to experience the illuminating void, to feel the Tao in oneself, it is necessary to eliminate the I of fear. That is undoubtedly true. Among the brothers of the Sacred Order of the Yellow Dragon, the one who distinguished himself the most was my friend Chang. Today, he lives in one of those planets of Christ in which nature does not die and never changes, because there are two natures, the perishable, changing, mutable, and the imperishable, that never changes and is immutable. In the planets of Christ exists the eternal, imperishable, and immutable nature. Chang lives in one of those planets in which the Christ shines. He achieved liberation several ages ago and lives on that far planet with a group of brothers who also achieved liberation with him. So I would like to teach the 7 secrets of the Order of the Yellow Dragon, but with pain I realize that the brothers are not prepared yet to receive it, and this is lamentable. It is also true that today it is not possible to use the 49 sounds of the Aya Akaparus, because this musical instrument no longer exists. There are many involutions of this instrument, but they are different. They do not have the 7 octaves. Involutions of this instrument are all the stringed instruments, violin, guitar, also the piano, etc. However, it is possible to achieve the illuminating void with a simple and practical system that all the brothers can practice. I will dictate the technique right now. Pay attention. Take a seat in the Oriental style with crossed legs in this form. Because you are Occidentals, this position is uncomfortable for you. So, seated together on a comfortable sofa, in the Occidental style, open the palm of your left hand and put the right over the left. That is to say, the back of the right palm over the left hand. Relax the body the maximum possible. And then inhale profoundly and very slowly. When inhaling, imagine that the creative energy ascends through the spermatic channels to the brain. Exhale short and fast. When inhaling, pronounce the mantra hum. When exhaling, the mantra sa. Undoubtedly, you have to inhale through the nose and to exhale through the mouth. When inhaling, mantralize the sacred syllable hum mentally. When you exhale, you can vocalize the syllable sa sonorously. Hum is written with the letters H-A-M, and sa is written with the letters S-A-H. The H always sounds like J. The inhalation has to be slow, the exhalation short and fast. Obviously, the creative energy in everybody flows from the inside to the outside, that is to say, in a centrifugal form. But we have to reverse that order with the intention to achieve a spiritual transformation. Our energy must flow in a centripetal form, from the outside to the inside. Undoubtedly, if we inhale slowly, the creative energy will flow in a centripetal form, from the outside to the inside. If we exhale short and fast, then this energy will become more and more centripetal. During the practice, you do not have to think about absolutely anything. The eyes have to be closed. In our mind, only the hum sa will vibrate and nothing else. As you practice the inhalation will become more and more profound, and the exhalation very short and fast. The great master of meditation reaches the point in which the respiration becomes just inhalation, and then the breathing is suspended. This turns out to be something impossible to scientists, but it is real to mystics. In that state, the master achieves nirvikalpa samadhi, or maha samadhi. The eruption of the illuminating void comes. One falls in the great void in which nobody lives, and where it is only possible to listen to the word of the secret Father. With this practice, it is possible to achieve the illuminating void, but the requisite is not to think about absolutely anything. Do not admit any thought, any remembrance in the mind. The mind has to be totally quiet, inside, outside, and in the center. Here, even the most insignificant thought is an obstacle to achieving the samadhi, the ecstasy. The science of meditation, combined with the respiration, produces extraordinary effects. Normally, people suffer from what is called nocturnal pollutions. Men and women have that problem, having erotic dreams, and if the eyes copulate with each other, the vibration passes through the silver cord to the physical body, and the orgasm comes with a loss of creative energy. This happens when the sexual energy flows from the inside to the outside in a centrifugal form. When the sexual energy flows from the outside to the inside in a centripetal form, the sexual pollutions finish. That is a benefit to health. Now, the samadhi is achieved during the practice of meditation because the creative energies flowing from the outside to the inside impregnate the consciousness and end up making it leave the ego and the body. The consciousness, liberated from the ego, in absence of the ego and outside of the physical body, undoubtedly penetrates in the illuminating void and receives the Tao. If one eliminates the ego of fear, of dread, one will be able to penetrate in the illuminating void without any preoccupation. One will feel that the individuality is being dissolved, will feel living in the stone and the rock, in the far star and the singing bird of any world or planet, but will not feel fear. If one does not feel fear, one finally will gravitate toward one's origin, transformed in consciousness, in a creature terribly divine, beyond good and evil. One will be able to stay in the sacred absolute sun. In that sun, as a microcosmic star, one will know the mysteries of the universe, because it is good to know that the universe itself, all our solar system, exists in the intelligence of the sacred absolute sun as an eternal instant. All the phenomena of nature are processed inside of an eternal instant, in the intelligence of the sacred absolute sun. But if one feels fear, one will lose the ecstasy and will return to the dense form. Dear brothers, you have to abandon fear. Undoubtedly, it is not enough to say, "I will abandon fear." There is the necessity to eliminate the I of fear. Yes, this defect only can be eliminated with the power of the divine Kundalini Shakti. First, it is necessary to eliminate it, to understand it, and then to invoke Devi Kundalini, our divine particular cosmic mother, to let her disintegrate the I of fear. Only in this form can one submerge in the illuminating void in an absolute form. Whoever achieves this will gravitate in the direction of the sacred absolute sun and will know the wonders of the universe. Our brothers have to practice the technique of meditation as we have given it. Do not forget that the body has to be relaxed. That is indispensable. Hamsa is the grand breath. Hamsa is our soul. Hamsa is also a mantra that transmutes the creative energies. Meditation combined with Tantrism is formidable. Hamsa is the key. We know very well that the creative energy is useful for the awakening of the consciousness when it is combined with meditation. Obviously, it takes the consciousness out of the ego and allows it to be absorbed in the illuminating void. Obviously, the illuminating void is beyond the body, the affections, and the mind. In a meditation room in the Orient, a monk asked a master, "What is the illuminating void?" The texts say that the master kicked the stomach of the disciple and that he fell fainted. Later, the disciple stood up and embraced the master. "Thanks, master, I have experienced the illuminating void." Many would say absurd, but it is not. What happens is that in approaching the illuminating void, a very special phenomenon appears. When a little chicken is ready to get out of the eggshell, his mother helps him by pecking the eggshell. The small chicken keeps pecking with that help and goes out. When somebody has matured, they receive the help of the Divine Mother Kundalini Shakti. They get out of the personality's eggshell and the ego in order to experience the illuminating void. But it is necessary to persevere in the meditation. The meditation has to be combined intelligently with the concentration and sleep. Sleep and concentration produce the illumination. Many esoterics think that meditation should not be combined with the sleep of the body, but those who think in that way are mistaken, because the meditation without sleep damages the brain. The sleep has to be used in combination with the meditation technique. It has to be a controlled sleep, a voluntary sleep, not a sleep without control, not an absurd sleep. It has to be sleep and meditation combined in an intelligent form. We have to mount on the sleep and not allow the sleep to mount on us. If we learn to mount on the sleep, we have triumphed. If the sleep mounts on us, we have failed. This technique allows our students to achieve the samadhi, the experience of the illuminating void. We have to practice daily. At what time? In the moment that we feel like doing it, very specially when we feel sleepiness, then we can meditate. If the disciples follow these indications, one day they will receive the Tao. They will be able to experience the truth. Obviously, there are two types of dialectics: the rational and intellectual dialectic, and the dialectic of the consciousness. During the Satori, the dialectic of the consciousness works. Then we understand everything through intuitions or through the words or symbolic figures in the language of parables of the Christic gospel, the alive language of the superlative consciousness of the being. In the being, the dialectic of the consciousness is always faster than the reasoning. A Zen monk was asked why Bodhidharma came from the West. His answer was, "The cypress is in the garden." Anyone could say that answer does not have any relation to the question, but it has it. It's an answer that comes before the dialectic of reasoning. It comes from the essence. The cypress, the tree of life, is everywhere. It doesn't matter if it is in the Orient or Occident. That is the sense of that answer. In the illuminating void, everything is known through the direct experience of the truth. The student will have to become familiar with the dialectic of the consciousness. Unfortunately, the power to formulate logical concepts, even though it can be very brilliant and useful in all aspects of practical life, is an obstacle to the dialectic of the consciousness. I do not want with this to discard the formulating power of logical concepts, because everybody needs them in practical life. But each faculty, obviously, has its particular orbit and is useful within its field. Outside of its orbit, it is useless and harmful. Let us put the formulating power of the concepts in its orbit. In the samadhi, or pana samadhi, or meditation, we have to capture, to experience the dialectic of the consciousness. That capacity will be developed according to the practice of meditation. The path of profound meditation involves great patience. Impatient never achieve the triumph. It is not possible to experience the illuminating void while impatience exists in us. The ego of impatience has to be eliminated after being comprehended. This has to be understood clearly. If one does so, the Tao will be received. That is obvious. The experience of the real could never come to us while the consciousness remains trapped among the ego. The ego by itself is time. All that multitude of phantasmal elements are the myself, and they are just time. The experience of the illuminating void is the antithesis. It is not related to time. It is beyond the time and the mind. Time is the multiplicity of the I. The I is the time. So time is subjective, incoherent, awkward, heavy, and does not have objective reality. When one takes a seat in a meditation room or just at home to meditate, when one wants to practice meditation, one has to forget the concept of time and to live in an eternal instant. Those who meditate and are dependent on the watch obviously do not achieve the experience of the illuminating void, because the illuminating void does not belong to time. It would be the same as a bird that is trying to fly, but its paw is tied to a stick. It could not fly. There would be an obstacle. In order to experience the illuminating void, we have to liberate ourselves from any obstacle. The important thing is certainly to experience the truth, and the truth is in the illuminating void. When Jesus Christ was asked about the truth, the Master kept a profound silence, and when Sakyamuni received the same question, he turned back and walked away. The truth cannot be described. It cannot be explained. Each one has to experience it by himself through the technique of meditation. In the illuminating void, we experience the truth, and that in itself is an element that transforms us radically.
Perseverance is necessary. We must be tenacious. It can happen that in the beginning we will not achieve anything, but as time passes, we will feel that we are becoming more and more profound, and in this form, one day the experience of the illuminating void will make an eruption in our minds.
Undoubtedly, the illuminating void is the holy Okidanok, the active Okidanok, omnipenetrant, omniscient, that emanates from itself. It is the sacred absolute sun. Happy is the one who could achieve the illuminating void, where no one lives, because it is precisely there where one will experience the real, the truth. Perseverance is indispensable. It is necessary to work profoundly every day until the achievement of the final triumph. The experience of the truth through meditation is prodigious. When the truth has been experienced, one feels strong enough to persevere in the work on oneself. Brilliant authors have spoken about the work on oneself, about the I, about the myself. What they have done was correct, but they forgot something, the experience of the truth. While one has not experienced the truth, one does not feel consoled, does not feel with enough forces to work on the myself, on the I. When one has really passed through that mystical experience, it is different. Nothing can stop the yearning for liberation. One will work intensively on oneself to truly achieve a radical, total, and definitive transformation. Now you will understand, my dear friends, why the meditation rooms are indispensable. Frankly, I feel sad when I see that even though I have written so much about meditation in different Christmas messages, even now in the South American and Central American countries, meditation rooms do not exist when they should exist. What has happened? There is indolence. Why does it exist? For lack of comprehension. It is indispensable to understand. The poor intellectual animal, mistakenly called man, needs encouragement, needs something that could animate him in the fight, needs stimulus for the work on himself. I know that the poor intellectual animal is weak by nature. It is in a very disadvantageous situation. The ego is so strong and the personality terribly weak that to leave him alone means that he will hardly be able to walk. He needs something that could animate him to work, needs an intimate help. This is possible only through meditation. I do not want to say that everybody at once will experience the illuminating void. Obviously, this experience is possible, but there are different grades, and the devotee can understand it better each time. The intimate impulse of the being will be lived through different experiences, more or less clear. The day will come when he will have the best of the experiences, the direct experience of the grand reality. Then he will receive the Tao. Reflect upon my words. It is not enough to listen. It is necessary to know how to listen. This is different. If any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, says James in the general epistle, he is like unto a man beholding himself in a glass and then goes his way. It is necessary to make the word within ourselves. It is not just to listen. The word has to be transformed into flesh, blood, and life if the radical transformation is yearned for. It is necessary to persevere. Inverential peace. Samael Aun Weor.